Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Woo! I finally made it! Oh god, I had to rush things up in order to make it here. Welcome, folks, to another fun-filled episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And give me a moment, I think I need to adjust my camera a little bit. My hair is getting continuously poofier, and I feel like I have to keep rising up my camera so that at least my head can at least get full frame onto the camera, at least for those who are watching it. I'm sure this is not an issue for anyone who's only listening to it, but still, it's just like a good just in case thing, at least for the camera when it goes up on YouTube and when I have it live on Twitch and all that kind of stuff. So it's to make sure everything is ready. Oh, and there is one more thing I just need to go and double check. It's regarding my mic. I don't know if I'm going a little bit too loud, but here we go. Okay, now I feel comfortable. Now I feel all set. It's just I had something to do a little bit before, but now I'm here. Now I got everything prepared, and especially, oh man, with today's news that I have for you today. Oh man, these are going to be some pretty fascinating stories to go and talk about, and we have plenty to discuss on these things, and I'm sure they will go and make a pretty fascinating and fun-filled episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now it's time. I want to go and ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Are you set? Are you prepared? Let's see now. Okay. Yes. All right. Good. People are ready for it. So that's very nice. Okay. Now, with all that said and done, I believe it is now time that we shall go and get this started. And with our first story, this is actually something that just recently came out, and it started to stir up a little bit of controversy. Like, when it first hit, like, there's only a few significant people that did notice, but now it's starting to grow and grow and grow more attention, where a lot of people are, no pun intended, starting to cry foul on this. And what I'm talking about is regarding the issue with Julia Sawalha. And for those of you who don't know, Julia Sawalha is the actress that's probably most known for playing the voice of Ginger in the 2000 animated movie Chicken Run, or at least one of the most well-known things. I mean, she is also a prominent actress herself, but one of the more recognizable stuff is playing the role of Ginger. Now, you guys probably know that coming soon there is going to be a sequel that very soon at Artman Animations they will go and start production on that. However, they did mention that there will be a few significant changes. They have announced before that they are definitely going to recast Mel Gibson for the role of Rocky, but unfortunately it seems that Ginger is also going to be recasted as well. And apparently Julia is not going to be taking any of this. In fact, she actually went on flippingbook.com and wrote an open letter regarding the whole situation. And I'm going to read it all for you right here. It's not that big, by the way. It's just a small open letter, but you'll see. Now, it states here, "Dear reader, last week I was informed out of the blue via email through my agent that I would not be cast as Ginger in the Chicken Run sequel. The reason they gave is that my voice now sounds too old, and that they want a younger actress to reprise the role. Usually in these circumstances, an actress would be given the chance to do a voice test in order to determine the suitability of their pitch and tone. I, however, was not given the opportunity. I am passionate about my work and I don't go down without a fight. So I did my own voice test at home and sent it to the producers. You can view it here, in which we will watch it a little bit later. Today I've received a very kind and thoughtfully written response from one of the creatives, outlining their decision, most notably saying, some of the voices, not yours I agree, definitely sound older. However, they stated, "We will be going ahead to recast the voice of Ginger." I received my letter of dismissal the day before it was announced that the Lone Free Ranger had been axed from the sequel and that the character of Rocky had to be revoiced. The reason given was that his voice is now too old. I feel I've been fobbed off with the same excuse. I went to great lengths to prove to the production that my voice is nigh on the same as it is in the original film. If they will be using some of the original cast members, let's be frank, I feel like I've been unfairly dismissed. To say I am devastated and furious would be an understatement. I feel totally powerless. Something in all of this doesn't quite ring true. I trust my instincts and they are waving red flags. I am saddened that I have lost the chances of working with Nick Park and Peter Lord, from who I have learned so much. The three of us together created Ginger. Today I responded by wishing the production the best of luck and the greatest success with the sequel. There is nothing more I can do other than to thank all of you who love and still love Chicken Run as I do. I'm off for the chop now, Ginger. So that's the big situation, is that apparently Julia Sawalha will not be returning because Aardman claims that her voice is a bit too old. Well, is that actually the case? And thankfully, she did put it up in the public for anyone who has read this letter to go and see for herself. And I will give you a little bit of a taste of what she does sound like. So it's a video through Vimeo that she has put up. So let's go ahead and just take a little listen to this.
I wasn't on holiday, Babs. I was in solitary confinement.
I wasn't on holiday, Babs. I was in solitary confinement.
Something is wrong here. Can't you see that?
Something is wrong here. Can't you see that?
Strange boxes arrive in the barn. Babs stops laying, but they don't take her to the chop. And now they're giving us extra food.
Strange boxes arrive in the barn. Babs stops laying, but they don't take her to the chop. And now they're giving us extra food.
Don't you see what's happening? They're fattening us up. They're going to kill us all.
Don't you see what's happening? They're fattening us up. They're going to kill us all.
So that's just a little bit of a taste of how she sounds. So the first audio that you have heard, that's from the original movie. And the second one that is repeated, that is Julia Sawalha now. And I'm just going to be very honest. In my opinion, from what we have heard, what the fridge is the difference? I mean, honestly, like, yeah, maybe there might be like a very minor slight difference that her age might have played a little bit, but for the most part, she sounds the exact same. Like, there's barely much of a difference, and I think she is more than qualified to go and reprise her role as Ginger. So, going back to this email, or this message that she put up, this excuse that Aardman Animations has put up regarding the fact that, oh, she can't go back because now she sounds a bit too old. Now, then again, that is my opinion on that. Okay, she doesn't sound that different than how she did back then. Like, you know, that's just me. I'm not like the cast director or any executive in Aardman Animation. But for me, I feel like, yeah, she definitely does sound the exact same, and that she would be more than capable to just reprise her role no problem, and it wouldn't sound any different than she would do it back 20 years ago. So really, what is the big situation here? What is the big problem, and why is it really that Julia Sawalha is getting recasted in this situation? Is it really the case that she is too old, or would it probably be something else? So far, we don't have an answer to this. I mean, like, this is news that is, like, fresh out of the oven, so we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes at Aardman. In fact, neither Aardman nor Netflix have even responded, and I say Netflix because they are going to be the ones that will be distributing it, at least in North America, or I think they're also doing it worldwide, but they are one of, at least, the main distributors of the sequel to Chicken Run. So what is the big situation here? If it's not because of the fact that she is too old, then what else could it be? Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I do have a little bit of a theory. I might have an idea as to what Aardman is trying to do. Now, I don't know if this is a decision directly by Aardman themselves, or if it actually is a decision that is made by Netflix for Aardman, because it is true that usually the distributors and stuff like that, they would have a heavy influence into the production, much like with DreamWorks, for example, back in the 2000s. Like for example, with Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit, the reason why you have some more notable and well-known actors that were involved in that production, like Helena Bonham Carter playing the role of the love interest for Wallace in the film, well, that's mainly because of the decision from DreamWorks that they wanted some well-known celebrities to be a part of the voice. And in the case right here, my theory is that I feel like it is a yes and no in terms of their excuse of the ageism thing. Like, I think, like, they're not necessarily lying when they're saying that Julia Sawalha is a bit too old to play the part. But it's not because of her performance. It's not because of her voice or because she sounds way too different than what she was before. I'm saying that she is too old to be relevant today. I think this really is casting for the sake of getting bigger name celebrities that are much younger and that resonate more with today's audiences. I'm saying that they're doing something a bit more like with Scoob recently, where instead of casting the usual actors to return and reprise their roles, where instead of getting people like Matthew Lillard or Grey Griffin or Kate McCusey or any of those people, they would go and hire recognizable celebrities. People like Will Forte, Zac Efron, who else? Amanda Seyfried, Gina Rodriguez, to get those recognizable actors to play the part. And technically, Warner Brothers could go and use the same old excuse that, oh, those actors are too old to play teenagers solving mysteries, so we got younger actors that modern audiences could resonate with. And that could actually be the case right here, where they would go and throw out some of the old actors and just bring back new ones to make Chicken Run a little bit more relevant, to make it more modern, and to make it more hip to attract more younger crowds to go and watch the movie. Despite the fact that technically you could just watch the old movie and it wouldn't really make that much of a difference. At least that's my theory. There's nothing that could confirm that. We don't have a confirmation of who's going to be the new voices of Rocky and Ginger. Now, the thing is that what's crazy though, is that we should have probably seen this coming because, as I've said before, it's not just Julia Sawalha that's being replaced, it's also Mel Gibson. And at first, a lot of people saw that news with Mel Gibson being replaced, and we didn't necessarily think much of it because, let's be honest, it's Mel Gibson. And I don't know about you, but I know that there are plenty of Jews and black people that would that would see the news of Mel Gibson being recasted, and they would just see that and go like, yeah, I think we know why. You don't have to tell us anything. I think we might have the idea as to why you might want to replace the guy. So, you know what? I think we get it. So, and that's the thing. But then, like, we saw this, and there isn't necessarily any form of controversy with Julia Sawalha. There's no, like, big drama that's, like, exploding Twitter or social media or anything like that. So, honestly, I really do believe Julia Sawalha where she says that there is some red flags that are coming up because the excuse of being too old to play as Ginger, it might be a little bit off. There might not be some truth to that. I believe there could be some truth in terms of like, okay, we got to recast you. You're getting too old, so we're going to get someone else. But it's not necessarily because of the performance. I really do believe that it is regarding the relevancy. But I will say, though, that as a fan of Robot Chicken, sorry about that, of Chicken Run, as someone who did enjoy Chicken Run, I think it's such a fantastic film and easily one of the best things that ever came out of Aardman and also one of the best stop-motion movies out there. This is honestly very disappointing that they would go and make that casting choice, especially that we do have the evidence that Julia is more than qualified to reprise her role as Ginger. I think it is a bit disappointing. But then again, like, technically it is a bit of a minor issue, like, because it is recasting an actor. That doesn't necessarily hinder too much on the potential movie itself. It is possible maybe they could find a replacement for Julia and she could actually do a very good job in the role and have the movie itself still be fantastic. But there is still that side of me who is a fan of Chicken Run that will be disappointed that she is not going to be coming back, especially with such a strong, prominent character as Ginger, and especially with her performance really helping out, making her a strong, independent character, and really a powerful character that is well developed, very complex, and very fleshed out. So there is a part of me that is definitely going to be disappointed regardless whenever this sequel is going to be coming out. But again, keep in mind that all that I am saying here is just a theory. There is no confirmation if that is actually the case. I mean, we could only find out when they would announce the new cast or something like that. And I mean, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be much of a strong chance that she would come back, unless the voices are starting to be prominently strong and are prominently loud to the point that it would leave Aardman with no choice but to bring her back. But for now, it is disappointing that she won't be coming back, but as she said it best, I think the only thing we can do is wish the best for Aardman with the production of Chicken Run 2 and hope that this decision won't end up screwing over the whole movie. I mean, like, maybe it could still turn out great. Maybe the potential new actress that will play Ginger will be amazing and will stay true to the spirit of what Julia Sawalha will put out. But overall, there's still that factor that this is a bit disappointing, and that, yeah, I do agree with her where there is a little bit of bullcrap in here. All right, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, what are your thoughts on the situation with Julia Sawalha being recasted as Ginger in the sequel to Chicken Run? Are you guys disappointed by this? Do you guys think it's not that big of a deal? Let me know what you all think. Let's see. Oh great, this is Powerpuff Girls 2016 voice casting all over again. Of all the studios I know who are picky with voice actors, I never thought Aardman would be in that category. I mean, heck, when they were working with DreamWorks, they refused their request to replace Wallace's voice actor, Peter Sallis, with someone else. Yes, I am aware that Peter Sallis did get replaced by Ben Whitehead after 2010, but he had an excuse. His health was declining, and Whitehead had gradually improved over the years. Well, yes, that is definitely true, but there is that's why I do feel like there is that part of me that feels like this could be more Netflix that influenced this more so than Aardman's decision, because right now, let's be honest, folks, Aardman isn't as strong of a position as they used to be 20 years ago. With many of their movies recently, like Shaun the Sheep and especially Early Man, being massive box office flops, they might be a little bit short on money, and right now they seem to be more dependent to be under the will of Netflix. So again, this is another theory, but if there is someone who is responsible for this recasting, then I do feel like Netflix would be much more of a culprit than Aardman. Let's see, what else do we got here? I think no matter what happens, they should get the original cast back as soon as possible, unless you're not going to use that character in the sequel, because the original cast was absolutely perfect and really timeless voices that never age someone to put a stop to this right away. The only exceptions of replacing your voice is if it's like the Secret Life of Pets incident with Louis C.K., or Chucky Finster incident with the Rugrats, or the Central Park incident with Kristen Bell. Technically, there is also another instance, I would say, in terms of replacing voice, and yes, that does include the age aspect. Honestly, I feel like the only time where the age element really does play a factor, and like the only time when it does feel seriously legitimate is when you're voicing kids. It does happen a lot when kid voice actors would end up getting constantly replaced whenever you would have to go and make a sequel. Like the best example I could think of is with Finding Nemo. When they would have to do Finding Dory like 13 years later, they can't use the same kid who voiced Nemo because he already way past he already hit puberty. In fact, like he was probably already an adult or going to be an adult at that point. So they had to go and replace that voice actor. And even with the Despicable Me films, at least in the case with the younger girls, the younger adopted girls from Gru, it's not always the same voice actor. Voice actors, like oftentimes they had to go and like switch things up, especially with Agnes. Like to keep her as a little girl, they got to keep casting little girls to play as Agnes. So that's another example of like what you can do in terms of replacing voices. Let's see. Where do we got here? Who else do we have? Anyone with a comment? So I'm looking at this now. This doesn't sound too old. In fact, it kind of sounds identical. So is it really that old? Come on, AA. We can't have our lovely British animators and studio become modern like Sony or even DreamWorks, where it's popular to be cool and hip. The company is the old timer of good stop motion. Well, at least like a lot more people are starting to grow more attention to it and starting to call out the bull crap. So at least maybe something will happen. Well, let's see. I love Armin as much as the next guy, but really, Mel Gibson I can understand since he's a controversial person, so to speak. But Julia Sawalha, I don't get how she sounds too old since she sounds the exact same. I hope the new actress does a good imitation of Sawalha, but in short, sounds too old my ass. Exactly, man. That's the thing. I don't think anybody is really buying the factor of the too old aspect. All right, I'm going to go and read one more comment here before we jump into the next story. The decision from the higher-ups to replace Julia shows that the studios are not interested in promoting authenticity to the character by using the same actor. Ooh, excuse me. There we go. As long as he or she is still alive. One example is that I can think of is Seth MacFarlane, who is no longer creatively involved in Family Guy, but is required in his contract to provide his existing characters' voices. By wanting someone else to do the voices other than the usual actor, you are lacking authenticity to the character that you are the most loyal to. And yeah, honestly, the best example, like I said before, is probably Scoob. A lot of the authenticity unfortunately got sacrificed in order to get those big name celebrities to be the voices. Like, I mean, to their credit, the actors did decently in their performances, but let's be honest, Amanda Seyfried is no Daphne. Zac Efron, he's a bit Fred, but he's not really Fred. And Will Forte is definitely no Shaggy. So, honestly, it is a factor that it is true we will have to wait and see with what they're going to do, and hopefully they will go and change their mind, and that this can result into a significant amount of backlash to the point that it would leave Aardman and Netflix no choice but to go and recast Julia Sawalha, but ultimately it is something that we will have to wait and see. So, I'm sorry to hear that, Miss Sawalha, and I do wish the best of luck for you. Okay, so with that said, it is now time that we're going to go and jump to the next story. And what we got here is actually a casting story. So again, another casting story, but one that could potentially happen. And this is actually regarding something like, it's been a while since I've heard. Like, we have heard about this before, but we're not sure, like, we're all not sure if, like, Disney would actually be serious about this. But then it looks like, okay, they're doing some casting, so there might be some legitimacy to this. And what I'm talking about is regarding Jude Law. Yes, Jude Law is currently in talks with Disney in order to play the part of Captain Hook in Disney's live-action remake of Peter Pan that is going to be called Peter and Wendy. Now, keep in mind, there is no other casting that has yet to be announced. So far, the only actor that may be attached to this project that we know of is just going to be Jude Law. And on top of that, we also do know a bit about the people that are going to be behind it. We know that we got producers like Toby Halbrooks and Jim Whittaker that are going to be producing the project. And we even got David Lowery, the director of Pete's Dragon, the 2016 Pete's Dragon, that's going to be directing the feature along with co-writing it with Tony Halbrooks. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, sorry about that. I think I got that mixed. I got that mixed up. Okay, Tony Halbrooks is not going to be a producer in this. He's only going to be a writer with David Lowery. Jim Whittaker is so far the only credited producer, at least on this Variety article. And also, one more thing that I would like to mention is that Disney has some pretty big plans for this project. And this is not going to be like a small little project that you would go and find on Disney Plus and stuff like that. This ain't going to be like Lady and the Tramp. They really want to go and make this big, where they are going to be giving this a theatrical release. It even says here, just to read a little part on this Variety article, it states that sources say the release is expected to be theatrical and not go the Disney Plus streaming route. So that's basically the only thing that we do know about. It's going to be a bit of a short story, but so far that's the main thing, that Jude Law could possibly be Captain Hook in the live-action Peter Pan. And I'm going to be very honest, like, if we can go into the main aspect of this, like, the main idea that Disney is doing a live-action remake of Peter Pan, I'm going to be very honest. With all the live-action remakes that they have done, it's a little bit of a surprise that they have yet to even go into Peter Pan. And I mean, we all know that they're not even afraid to go into the territory of Walt's old animated films. I mean, they already built a franchise with Sleeping Beauty, and they already had a massive hit with Jungle Book, and pretty soon they are going to do one with 101 Dalmatians. I mean, technically back in the 90s they already did that, but now they're going to do it again with Emma Stone as Cruella de Vil. In fact, actually make it more with Cruella de Vil. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. Yes, and then I almost forgot. Sorry, technically there is also the 2015 Cinderella movie. But back to what I was saying. It is kind of a surprise that they have yet to even touch upon Peter Pan, because Peter Pan seems to be the one property that a lot of people seem to have touched upon and try to make their own iterations of it. And it is technically true that there are varying results of it. I mean, yes, there is that 1953 film that a lot of people would say is the definitive movie version of Peter Pan that everyone knows and loves. But then there are also others that they can range from, like, amazing to complete disasters. Like Hook, for example, the Steven Spielberg movie from the early 90s, that is a cult classic. That is a movie that everyone loves, that everybody would enjoy. It has a massive cult following. Now, of course, at first, when it was released in theaters, it was a box office flop, and critics actually hated the movie. But then it grew its own significant fan base. It started to grow a bit popular, where now it is a beloved, nostalgic, and a very cherished movie. And even some people would even go as far and say that it is a highlight to performances of actors like Robin Williams and even Dustin Hoffman as Captain Hook. But then on the other hand, there are also ways that you can make a disastrous production of Peter Pan. And I can think of two notorious examples that are actually pretty recent. One is the live televised event. Now, technically, that is supposed to be an adaptation, like a television adaptation of the Broadway show or the stage musical of Peter Pan. And yeah, like the stage musical itself is very well known, is very beloved by many generations to come. But that television presentation, especially with Christopher Walken as Captain Hook, my God, it was a disaster and a half. And I think really it was Christopher Walken that really did help tie things up together, where he wasn't even being much of a different character. It really was just Christopher Walken as Christopher Walken trying to be a pirate. Like, in a way, it kind of is a sight to behold. And for me personally, I feel like that did play a significant part in not trusting any live television shows. Like, whenever they want to do like a live television event to make to take a musical and bring it onto television, I always know that they are disasters. And there are plenty of examples out there. Like, another one that I can think of, I don't know if it was either before or after, but there was also that Sound of Music one that was an utter embarrassment. Like, that was another piece of crap there. But then there is also another one, and this is probably more true to the subject that we are talking about, since chances are what Disney is going to do is make a big budgeted live action version of Peter Pan. So hopefully they won't make the same mistakes as the 2015 Pan movie. If you have not seen the 2015 Pan movie, holy crap, you guys are in for a treat. I'm just going to say right now that the 2015 Pan movie is one of, or I would even go as far and say, my favorite bad movie. It is just hilariously bad from beginning to end, not only with the way that it butchers the story of Peter Pan, because technically the thing is that this is supposed to be a prequel to Peter Pan, like how this little boy named Peter would grow to become Peter Pan and stuff like that. And then you would find the origins of like all the natives and Captain Hook and all that kind of stuff. Like, you get the origins of everything. But not only do they butcher the story itself and butcher the lore to the point where they introduce some really stupid ideas. Like, one example that I can give you is that not only did they make Captain Hook a good guy, but they also made a shipping with Captain Hook and Tiger Lily. I don't know about you, but that kind of sounds disgusting right there. But on top of that, just the execution of everything is a complete disaster. Like, oh my god, like, especially the parts where they would have, like, random music videos. Like, they would legit have random musical moments, like, just popping out of nowhere. Like, apparently, the chants the natives would do, I kid you not, is actually, I forgot the name of the song, but you would see the natives on the side going, "Hi, ho, let's go! Hi, ho, let's go!" I am not joking on this. And then there's also a part, okay, you know the introduction to Neverland? I kid you not. It's like, you see Peter Pan, like, he sees the world of Neverland, and he sees all these kids working, like working in mines and stuff like that in order to get fairy dust. And, like, he just looks at it going, is this Canada? And everybody is suddenly singing Entertainers by Nirvana. And that's where we also got the introduction of Hugh Jackman just coming out, "Here we are now, entertainers! Here we are now, entertainers!" And if, yeah, you thought Moulin Rouge was trippy, wait till you see frickin' Pan. But in all seriousness, though, please go watch the 2015 Pan. Like I said, it's my favorite bad movie. It is a piece of trash. And I mean, I highly recommend you just go check it out. But to go back to what I was talking about, the whole point of it all is regarding this right here. It's regarding this Peter Pan and Wendy movie. So my point is, with what I am pointing out, with stuff like Hook or the live televised special or Pan and stuff like that, it can vary. And that, like, these are just a few examples, by the way. There are plenty of other films that are like amazing, they're terrible, or there could be some stuff in between. But the thing is with Pan is that there are plenty of directions that you could go. And in this case here, honestly, I feel like, you know, I'm not as troubled with the idea of Disney trying to make an adaptation of Peter Pan, because we've already gotten so many different versions of it where there are plenty of directions that you can go. And I can definitely trust Disney that they're not going to go into the same route like they did with stuff like Beauty and the Beast or especially The Lion King, where they're just going to repeat the same movie like they did before. Who knows? Like maybe they could do something that's a bit more faithful to the original novel, to the original source material, or even more to the stage musical and stuff like that. There are plenty of ways that you can get into. And I can say right now, I know for a fact that they would not go and try to make it a direct copy of the animated film, because if they would, then they gotta go and address the issue with the natives. And I don't know about you, but in my opinion, I feel like they are possibly the most racist thing ever to come out of Disney, possibly even more than Song of the South or The Crows from Dumbo. The way that they treated the natives in Peter Pan, it is disgusting. It is freaking nasty. So I don't see Disney, I don't think I can imagine Disney repeating that onto Peter Pan and Wendy. And as for the casting of Jude Law, you know, honestly, I don't see that as a bad idea. Like, thinking back to the Disney Captain Hook, I mean, like, you already got a little bit of the look, and I mean, you could alter it a little bit to make him look like the old Captain Hook, and with Jude Law, I think it's safe to say that he's already a very well-respected actor, and he could deliver some very solid performances. But with Captain Hook, we'll see how he can go, and hopefully he can stay true to, like, the bombastic nature of Captain Hook whenever he would get, like, you know, whenever he would lose his temper, or, like, whenever he would freak out with TikTok the crocodile. I think that would be one important factor to try to go and nail. I mean, like, yeah, definitely, like, absolutely, try to go and do your own version of it, but those are probably the two attributes that I would hope to see come back for the live-action Captain Hook, that they don't alter him too much to the point that they're pretty much doing the same thing like what 2015 Pan did. Hopefully they will keep Captain Hook's short temper and also his comedic fear of TikTok the crocodile. So hopefully they will keep those elements to stay a little bit true and have a little bit of a nod to the animated film, and also at the same time get a good Smee. You know, I think that is also something that not a lot of people think of whenever you need a good Captain Hook, because the thing is, like to have a good Captain Hook, you also need a bit of a good Smee as well, because Smee does play a very significant role in creating the role of Captain Hook to what we know him as today. Like, he does play a very significant part in making him one of the most well-known Disney villains. So hopefully they will go and get that right. So overall, in my opinion, I am a little bit more open with Disney doing a live-action remake of Peter Pan, because there are definitely plenty of directions that you can go with it. And yeah, sometimes they can range into something great, and then there's also something terrible. And I do hope that Disney can go into the more positive route with it, but I guess we will have to wait and see. This is not going to be coming out for a long time, and so far they're just in the preliminary stages, but I guess overall we'll just have to wait and see with how this goes. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and it is now time I would like to go and ask you, what do you think of the casting of Jude Law for Disney's live-action remake of Peter Pan? Are you looking forward to this? Do you think Jude Law would do amazingly as Captain Hook? Are you doubtful of this Peter Pan remake? Let me know what you all think. Okay, let's see now. Oh, hold on a sec. There we go. Just need to get back down to where the actual comments are. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully this sounds like a good idea. He has to compete with Dustin Hoffman, and he's still the best live-action Captain Hook. There is hopefully they can make this into a prequel that ends right at the first 2 minutes of the original animated movie. That's the only way I could see this really working. To do a so your idea is to make it a prequel. Did you not listen to what I was saying with the freaking 2015 Pan? Even that could be disastrous as well. But I'm going to be very honest. I can immediately say and confidently say I don't think they're going to go in that direction. Mainly because you got to keep in mind, the title of this is literally Peter Pan and Wendy. So you could rest assured that this movie will feature Peter Pan and Wendy. And if you're going to do a prequel, then you can't really have Wendy. Or you got to sacrifice one of them. If you're going to do a prequel to all this, that you got to go and see them before how they would meet. Like it's either Peter Pan or Wendy. You can't really have both. I mean, you technically can, but one has to reduce their role to a cameo. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, and also for the comment on Dustin Hoffman as the best best live action Captain Hook. Because there was a part of me that was a little bit doubtful. It was like, Disney's Captain Hook is still the best. But no, okay, best live action Captain Hook. Okay, I'll give you that one there. Let's see. I don't have any thoughts on Jude Law playing Captain Hook. I'm just hoping that they will treat Native American characters better than the original, but they can't screw it up worse than Pan, which cast a white girl playing Tiger Lily. Oh yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention about Tiger Lily in the 2015 Pan. I forgot her name. I think she's actually a recognizable actress. But the thing is that yes, they hired Tiger Lily as a white girl, and she is the only white girl among that entire native tribe. And on top of that, did I forget to mention, she's the only one that, Rooney Mara. It was Rooney Mara that plays the role of Tiger Lily as the only white member of the tribe. And it's not like, oh, she was adopted and stuff like that. No. Like, they try to have her blend in with the crowd. And she's the only one that survives. Like, apparently there was a whole scene that's like an entire massacre, which, by the way, if a native in Neverland dies, they explode in color. Like, you'll find in trailers there's a moment where you see, like a little hut where there would be explosions of color. That's apparently a mass genocide that they're showing. It's supposed to be tragic, but no. Look at all the pretty colors. Look at all the exploding purples and blues and greens and oranges. Oh boy, that movie's a mess, but I love it for its disastrous nature. Okay, now let's see. Well, at least they're not casting Christopher Walken as Captain Hook again. Also, are they going to cast a boy or a girl to play Peter Pan? Chances are, like, if they would go and cast, I think honestly they would do a boy. I think that would be the direction that they would go, like, to keep the authenticity. I mean, they're not going to go and cast a girl because technically that would be for Broadway purposes, because that's the stage musical's tradition to cast a woman to play as Peter Pan. So yeah, I could definitely say that it's going to be a young boy that will play as Peter Pan. And as for the casting, I can confirm that Jude Law will definitely be better than Christopher Walken, because at the very least, Jude Law will remember his lines, because that's one hilarious thing about Christopher Walken's performance in the live televised special, is that he doesn't even remember a single line. Like, there are times, like, yeah, he could probably remember a few, but there are those awkward moments where they're just sitting there and he's just confused. Like, he doesn't know any of his lines and has no idea what he's doing. Like, he's just sitting there. I think it was like after a sad song where they revealed Peter Pan's origins and losing his mother. And like, it's literally just Christopher Walken just sitting there like, Peter Pan lost his mother. Oh man. Peter Pan lost his mother. And it's just that for like a good minute or two. I kid you not. Oh my god. Oh, just flashbacks of that. It's just, it's an embarrassing production. And again, it's stuff like this that makes me no longer trust live televised specials, you know? That's why I feel like the best one is the Little Mermaid one. Yeah, they, like, more than half of it is just showing the original animated film. Better that than just seeing a disastrous live televised special, you know what I mean? I prefer, like, okay, like, at least give me some parts of the animated film and just put the focus on the musicals, okay? Like, those musical moments could be disastrous, but hey, bonus points for showing the animated film. At least, like, I got some quality in there. Okay, let's see what else we got. Let's see. Well, this is unexpected for Disney's live-action remakes. I can imagine Boogeyman to be Captain Hook. I said Boogeyman from Rise of the Guardians. Well, I mean, like, yeah, if you want to do a little DeviantArt-style casting, but I mean, this is real casting, you know? Or if you're referring to the actor that played the Boogeyman in Rise of the Guardians, I forgot the actor's name. Maybe he could have some potential. Okay, so let's see, what else do we got here? Jude Law isn't super over the top as an actor, from what I know. However, he is still very entertaining. Also, maybe I'm reaching, but I think Law is taking this role to distance himself from Fantastic Beasts because of the controversies with Rowling. I can't wait for how he portrays the role. Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I really don't blame you on that. I think maybe that is just a crazy theory, but then again, it's been a long time since we've heard anything about any upcoming productions on Fantastic Beasts. We don't know what's happening with movie number 3, but then again, I wouldn't blame him if he wants to, step back from any of that production because of many of the controversial figures that are involved with it, especially with J.K. Rowling. The funny thing is that with the Fantastic Beasts movies, there are some people that are saying that film is starting to be a bit cursed because of the few controversial people that are involved. Not everyone, though. I'm sure Eddie Redmayne is going to remain safe, but just some of them, well, I don't know if you really want to touch them with a 10-foot pole, especially if J.K. Rowling still refuses to say that trans rights are human rights. So there is that. All right, I'm going to go and read one more comment before we're going to jump into the next story. Let's see. I'll give it a wait and see for this since I'm not a big fan of Disney's live-action remakes, although I am surprised that Disney has yet to make this one. We got Spielberg's Hook, 2015's Pan, the TV special, the 2003 Peter Pan from Universal and Sony. That one flopped at the box office with critics liking it. I'm not sure you've seen it because I've seen it as a kid and it was good and was close to the source material. Anyways, Jude Law playing Hook could be a potential, so I'll wait and see. Yeah, there was that 2003 movie, but I feel like that one was kind of in the middle. It's not as much of a disaster as 2015's Pan or the TV special, but at the same time, it's not as fondly remembered as the Disney animated classic or Hook, so there is that. Alright, so with the next story, what we got, might as well go and get into some really good news right now. I will say this though, with our next story, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know how else you would go and expand the ideas, but I will say that I love this animated short, and more of that, then honestly, I am more than welcome for it. And what I'm talking about is going to be Young Love. Yes, HBO Max has ordered a brand new series called Young Love, which is actually going to be a TV show that is inspired by the Oscar-winning animated short Hair Love. And yes, the creator of the short, Matthew Cherry, will be coming back as a showrunner, along with the animation creative behind The Boondocks and Black Dynamite, Carl Jones, that will be involved to help out with Matthew Cherry. We don't really have a release date on this yet, but we do have a little bit of a plot and giving us a bit of an idea of how this show is going to go and how they will expand more from what they have established from the animated series. So I'll go and read a little bit on my source here on Variety once again. And let's see, which one is it? Yes. It is going to be from this one, where it states, Young Love, which will flesh out the story of that family, takes an honest look into the world of the Young family, including millennial parents Stefan and Angela, their daughter Zuri, and her pet cat Rocky, as they juggle their careers, marriage, parenthood, social issues, and multi-generational dynamics, all while striving to make a better life for themselves. We also got a couple of quotes to go and read. First of all, coming from Matthew Cherry himself, where he states, There we go. Sorry, it might sound gross, but just needed to really clear my throat. I am beyond excited to continue telling the story of Stefan, Angela, and Zuri and further explore the family dynamics of a young black millennial family we establish in our short film Hair Love as an animated series. Couldn't ask for better partners in Sony Pictures Animation and HBO Max in helping us get young love out to the world. We also got a quote from Billy Wee, HBO Max's Senior Vice President of Original Animation, where he states, "Hair Love struck a chord that is still resonating deeply with audiences of all ages. Matthew and Sony Animation's creative voices are a welcome addition to the HBO Max family, and we can't wait to bring this joyous story to the world." And I'm just going to go and say this right now. If you guys have not seen Hair Love, please do so. And at this point, you have no excuse not to go and watch it. I believe Sony Pictures Animation has already put it up on their YouTube channel where you can just go and check it out for free. So there is that. And again, please go ahead and watch it if you guys didn't have the opportunity to do so beforehand. I remember I first saw this when it was released at the same time as the Angry Birds movie 2, where they actually put it up before that film on the big screen. So yeah, I was actually one of the fortunate few that actually did see this on the big screen. And I'm just going to say this right now. Some people may say this is a bit of a controversial opinion, but honestly, this short is possibly it is the greatest thing that Sony Pictures Animation has ever put out. Like, period. Even more than Spider-Verse. Now, I will say, like, yes, Spider-Verse is definitely great, and it is at a close second, but Hair Love, oh my god. Like, not only is it a visually beautiful movie, but such a heartfelt picture as well. And I think it really is the heart that makes this movie that makes the short so strong. And like, it even got me, I even teared up when I saw that short. It's like one after another, you learn more about the family and what they want to try to do and what's the whole point of all this. And oh my god, it's like, there was a part of me, it's like, oh my god, please stop. Please stop. You're gonna make me ugly cry before the whole movie would even frickin' start. But yeah, like, this is such a fantastic animated short, and again, please go and check this out. And I'm happy that they are finding ways to go and expand it. Now, I will admit that at first when I heard about this news, I was a little bit confused. I was a little bit curious to know, like, how are they going to expand this? Because keep in mind, Hair Love is in itself a pretty simple animated short where there isn't really a whole lot to go and fully establish. There isn't much that you can actually work on in order to make like this whole big story. But then again, after reading the synopsis with what they want to do with this, I could definitely see the direction that they would want to go. I mean, like, it's simple, it's very down to earth, but then again, that is the whole point. And that could be a way that they could go and expand it, where this isn't really going to be some outlandish, crazy, or even psychedelic animated Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. It ain't going to be like a psychedelic animated series in the style of like Steven Universe or Adventure Time, but rather this simple, down-to-earth animated series where they will go and touch upon the simple things in life, where it's a little bit like some of Studio Ghibli's movies, like Whisper of the Heart and stuff like that, or even My Neighbor Totoro a little bit. Like, yeah, maybe they're not going to go into like any crazy fantasy elements, or maybe I'm wrong and they will introduce some little fantasy bits to go into the imagination of Zuri or stuff like that. But really, it is about the slice of life aspect, to see this millennial family go through life and like and also not be afraid to touch upon some social issues, which I'm sure after this year, like, I'm sure they will have plenty of material to go and work with. So in that regard, I could definitely see how they might go and actually pull this off to create this animated series where it is going to be simple. It's going to be a lot more humble and modest, but they will use that to its strengths, especially like with some of the stuff that they have already introduced, like with the element of family, and even with the mother especially. I think that's going to be the one thing that we want to see, that I don't know, as a Hair Love fan, I would love to see the most, is with what's happening with the mother and how she's going to go through what's currently happening with her. I'm not going to spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but I will say I do hope her condition does get better with time. And with all this, honestly, it really does make me very excited to know what they are going to do and really expand upon this. Because, yeah, I mean, a lot of people might not necessarily think all that much about this in particular, because it is just an animated short after all. But again, I have to say that this is possibly the best thing to ever come out of Sony Pictures Animation, even if they have nothing to do with anything during the production of it, because let's be honest, Sony Animation only picked it up and just released it. They have more just the role of the distributor, but still, I mean, this animated short is still beautiful and very powerful with what they have done, especially with a great art style and great animation in itself. Like, this already did do a pretty good job with the materials, with the simple things that they want to go and accomplish. They managed to nail that perfectly, and I hope that they could do the same thing with the HBO Max series. Now, we don't know anything else. We don't know when this is going to be coming out. We don't know who's going to be among the cast and stuff like that. But honestly, I really do wish the best for Matthew Cherry and his crew with HBO Max and Sony Animation, that they can find a way to properly expand upon this, to bring the heart of Hair Love and turn that into a full-blown animated series. Because honestly, with the idea that they can go into the more humble aspects with it, yeah, that's definitely something that you could also do with animation. And I really do hope the best for this series, because again, I love Hair Love, and hopefully they will expand it to make it something bigger and better. Well, I can't really say better, because it's hard to imagine how can you go better than Hair Love. Hopefully they will expand it to something bigger with Young Love. Alright, so with that said, yeah, it's pretty short, but that's basically the main thing I want to go and emphasize with this series in particular. So with that said, I'd like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask you all about your thoughts about Young Love. Do you think this is going to be a great series? Do you think it's for the best for Hair Love to just remain as a short? Do you think HBO Max is doing the right move with this? Let me know what you think. Now let's see here. Honestly, I can't wait for this. I absolutely adored Hair Love and thought it was the best part of the theatrical experience. And hell, I even liked Angry Birds movie too. So I'm definitely going to check it out. The only downside to this is that it's with the potential emotions this will display. There isn't a hilarious movie after all after it to balance things out like last time. Yeah, that is true. Okay, I can definitely see what you mean. And I definitely felt like the same way, honestly. I remember when Angry Birds Movie 2 was released, I honestly couldn't care less about the film itself. Yeah, it was good, but I was more blown away about Hair Love. Like, whenever people would review Angry Birds Movie 2 or talk about the movie, I was just there like, yeah, that's nice. Oh, but Hair Love, though! But Hair Love, though! I was that guy. But with the emotional aspect of it, I guess we'll see how that goes. I mean, I don't think they're gonna do it all the time, that they will really pull your heartstrings as much as they do with the animated short with every single episode. And I think they will try to put in some lighthearted humor onto it as well, because there was a little bit of that with the animated short as well. So, I don't know, that is something that will remain seen. But then again, yes, you can't, you're on HBO Max, so technically there is a way that you can go and have that same experience where afterwards you can have something funny after watching something very emotional with Young Love. So after an episode of Young Love, you could just go and put up a Looney Tunes cartoon and you could be safe. All right. Let's see. What else do we got here? One major idea, if this becomes a series, would be more like it goes to the core of each of the episodes, like a political message or find a path through being positive after horrible events, and goes into becoming a heartwarming and thought-provoking. Well, I think that is going to be the direction that they are going to go. Like, they even mentioned that, they even said that it is going to go into social issues, and they will go into parenthood. They will go into, like, they promise that this will be a series that will not be afraid to go into more serious subject matter. Let's see, what else do we got? This is a huge surprise. I didn't know that the short in front of Angry Birds 2 will become a TV series. Anyways, I love the short. It's beautiful, touching, and amazing 2D animation, and makes me miss watching 2D animated films on the big screen, not counting anime. As for Hair Love becoming a series, might be unnecessary, but I'll check this out as long as they don't cast Kevin Hart as the father. You never know, man. You never know. I mean, like, if they're gonna bring in Kevin Hart, it's guaranteed that Kevin Hart wouldn't do the same kind of performance as he would, like, in The Secret Life of Pets or anything like that. Like, he will remain, like, remain calm. He will try to be a bit more serious. And I mean, we have seen plenty of examples of Kevin Hart being serious and capable of delivering a good performance along the way. So, I mean, if Kevin Hart would be cast in Young Love, then it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Let's see now. What else do we got? Young Love definitely has potential to become an amazing series and hopefully becoming more fun and an important series similar to the Proud Family. Sony Animation is doing great so far, well, from Spider-Verse onward. Looks like I'll get HBO Max again just for the series alone. All I could say is that I seriously cannot wait to see this soon. Oh, that's great to see that we already got some people hyped up for it. Let's see, what else do we got? Have I read this one? Oh, actually, no. I think it's a great idea. I believe that this series will have a lot of heart into this show, and I believe it can be simple and charming like the short. And I definitely believe this is one of the times where the short was better than the actual movie itself. Yeah, those moments are definitely rare, but when they are, oh boy, they are quite an experience. And honestly, it's not that. Like, even Pixar had a few of those as well. Like, I remember... a great example would be Sanjay's Super Team. Like, not many people remember Sanjay's Super Team, but that was the animated short that really blew a lot of people's minds. That was right in front of The Good Dinosaur. So I think it is safe to say that is one good example of that. But there is also another great example I can think of, and that is regarding Lou. And if you guys don't know, Lou was the animated short that aired before Cars 3. And I don't know about you, but I definitely preferred Lou over Cars 3. Alright, so I'll go and read one more comment before heading on to the next story. Let's see. Was there one I haven't read yet? Okay, I'll read this one. I have seen the short Hair Love, and I really enjoyed it. I could see why they want to expand the world of Hair Love. I might not have HBO Max, but I would honestly check it out. So yeah, honestly, like I said, I'm glad to see that a lot of people are anticipating for this short. And again, I do wish the best of luck for Matthew Cherry and the team at HBO Max and Sony Animation to make a very strong series as much as the short itself. Alright, so with the next story that we have here, this is going to be a bit of a similar story that we got. It is not going to be on HBO Max, however, but this is going to be on Netflix. And honestly, I feel like this is something that it's been a while since we have heard anyone really talking about it, or maybe it is just me. But it looks like we are finally gonna have the grand finale of this entire saga. And what I'm talking about is gonna be regarding wizards. Yes, Netflix has officially announced that the series Wizards, which is going to be the final installment of the Tales of Arcadia trilogy, is going to be coming out on Netflix next month on August 7th. Now, the big thing with Wizards is that this is going to be the series where they will try to establish its own lore, but at the same time tie everything together, where not just the elements of Wizards, but also from the previous Tale of Arcadia series like Troll Hunter and Three Below, where they're all going to come together and they will have the one epic conclusion to cap everything off. And on top of that, they have also mentioned that they are going to be bringing back many of the actors that were on Troll Hunters and on Three Below to return, along with a new cast as well. And they will include Emily Hirsch, Lexi Medrano, Charlie Saxton, Stephen Yun, David Bradley, Lena Headley, Fred Tatasciore, Clancy Brown, Diego Luna, Mark Hamill, and Kelsey Grammer. And the new people will include Alfred Molina, Stephanie Beatrice, is it Beatrice? Yeah, Stephanie Beatrice, James Faulkner, and John Rhys Davies. And if you guys want to know what's going to be happening with this series, with Wizards in particular, I'll go and read from my source here on Variety once again. And this will be from the executive producer and showrunner of the series, Mark Guggenheim, as he states... Wizards follow the time-honored tradition of many trilogies in that the concluding chapter returns to settings, characters, and concepts established in the first. At the same time, however, Wizards is very much his own animal, drawing on characters from both Troll Hunters and Three Below, and placing them in a completely new environment that is actually old, Camelot. Although Wizards is the shortest of the three series at 10 episodes, I'm blown away by the amount of story we were able to push in this season. The narrative literally spans centuries and contains some of the most emotional content of the entire trilogy. So honestly, I'm not gonna lie, there is a part of me that did, or there was a part of me that did felt like, I wonder whatever happened to that Tales of Tales of Arcadia saga, because I don't know, maybe I'm just looking on the wrong side of the internet, or maybe like I'm not seeing the right people talking about it. But I don't know about you, but I feel like there was a moment where people would really talk a lot about Tales of Arcadia, especially with the beginning with Troll Hunters, and then as time would move on, like it kind of like stepped away from relevancy. Like, it got really popular with the first and second season of Troll Hunters, but then as time would move on and time would progress with stuff like the third season and then Three Below would come in, it seems like a lot of people might have easily forgotten about it, even though it was already established that this is going to be an epic trilogy. Maybe things have gotten delayed for sure, because I think they mentioned before that this was supposed to be coming out sometime in the fall of 2019 originally, like in terms of Wizards and stuff like that. But yeah, honestly, it's kind of surprising that not many people are talking about this series as much as they probably should. Because I remember watching the first season of Troll Hunters way back when, and a few more episodes afterwards, and yeah, it is definitely an epic series. And I would even say that this is a very significant series for DreamWorks Animation, because this is the first one that really did define DreamWorks as an animation studio producing TV shows for Netflix. Now, this is not the first one, of course, especially that they have already done a few TV shows before, and even stuff with, I believe, like, they did a few for maybe Cartoon Network, but definitely for Nickelodeon, but, like, they had some shows on Netflix before, but then, when Troll Hunters came in, that was a real game changer. That was the one that really did define DreamWorks in terms of creating TV shows, and it really did set a brand new standard, not only for DreamWorks' upcoming, like the following TV shows from DreamWorks, but also from Netflix as well. And on top of that, like, it really was the one that did define the standards before any of the other shows that would come in. Like, before popular series like Spirit Riding Free, or especially She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, or even the Boss Baby series, which that one, let's be honest, like, say what you will about Boss Baby, but the show is actually really popular on Netflix. This is the one that really Troll Hunters really was the one that really cemented DreamWorks' position on Netflix, that it can produce shows in the same caliber as something like BoJack Horseman. And a lot of people are pointing out as well, Voltron as well. That's another great example. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. But the big thing with Tales of Arcadia in general, like, a big part that really did make it successful is because, of course, of Guillermo del Toro's environment. I mean, Guillermo del Toro is the show creator of the whole series, and the guy who did think up of, like, the whole concept of Tales of Arcadia and Troll Hunters and stuff like that. But honestly, I was quite surprised that not many people seem to have talked about it more so than they would. Like, I don't know what happened in terms of its relevancy, because before She-Ra and Voltron, like, it was all about Troll Hunters, and then suddenly, like, Three Below came out, and not many people seem to have talked about it, and, like, it did leave me confused, wondering, like, what has happened with Wizards, because there was a part of me that did believe, like, maybe that show ended up getting canceled or something. And I mean, considering that we are talking about a Guillermo del Toro project, that is highly possible, because as much as Guillermo del Toro is an acclaimed filmmaker and a highly beloved filmmaker, he has a lot of projects that never saw the light of day. As much as many people love those ideas, like, unfortunately, from one way or another, they just never happened. Rather it be Justice League Dark, or At the Mountain of Madness, or that reboot of the Haunted Mansion. There's just a lot of ideas that Guillermo del Toro wants to do, but ultimately they just never came to be. And I thought for a moment Wizards would be one of them, especially when it seemed pretty late in terms of production, or in terms of when it would be coming out. But at least we do know it does have a release date, and we would actually have a legitimate conclusion to Tales of Arcadia, which it does definitely deserve, because it really does seem like DreamWorks' most ambitious project. Well, not project, but it does seem like DreamWorks' most ambitious series that they have ever created. Debatably even more than either Voltron or even She-Ra, because of the scale that they have crafted, where they haven't just built a bunch of series, but they've pretty much made this entire universe in which the quality is almost on par with their movies, actually. Maybe not entirely, but it's honestly frighteningly close, to the point where you could just put it out, you could put all that in theaters, and people would buy it as pretty solid content, you know? It could be, it could be consumed by people as something that could be in the same caliber as something like How to Train Your Dragon and stuff like that. Maybe not as polished, but definitely close in terms of the quality, and definitely in terms of the writing. So honestly, for me, I'm glad to see that, like, we are seeing more stuff from Tales of Arcadia. Now, I don't know if they mean that in terms of Wizards, this is going to be the only season, this is going to be the only one. Like, I don't know if they would want to do another season and stuff like that with a few more episodes, because it looks like from this article, they would say that it's just going to be this season and that's it. It's just going to be those 10 episodes that's going to be concluding everything. I don't know if they're going to make another season or two to go and really wrap things up, but I don't know. I guess we will have to go and wait and see. Maybe we will have a trailer that will be coming soon, but for now, we do know that this is going to be happening, and for Tales of Arcadia fans, if you are excited to see this come out, then all you have to do is wait until August 7th for the 10 episodes to come out on Netflix. Alright, so with that said, let's go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about the release of Wizards now that that is going to be coming out less than a month, actually. Are you guys excited for it? Are you guys fans of Tales of Arcadia? Let me know what you all think about this. Okay. Let's see. To be honest, I've not watched Troll Hunters or really any installments of the Tales of Arcadia trilogy, so I can't form an opinion. I guess it sounds okay. Guillermo del Toro is a good director, and Stephanie Beatrice is a good actress. Maybe I'll watch the other 2 chapters before it hits, but right now I don't have a word to say. Well, I do have a word, and it's not related to the show, but it's just hum 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 kuka papa nap. I don't know if it sounds like you're either mocking me or you're referencing something else that might feature either Guillermo del Toro or Stephanie Beatrice, but let's see. Yeah, someone is saying, I'm excited to see more trolls. The good kind, not the internet ones. Okay, so... Oh, really? We don't have much, Do we have... Wow, really? Have none of you have actually seen any of the Tales of Arcadia series? Like, none of you have only seen... I've only seen the first episode of Troll. Oh, wow. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, apparently it's a quote from High School Musical 2. Oh, okay. Guys, don't quote anything from High School Musical with me, okay? Don't say anything regarding High School Musical, because no matter what you're gonna say, it's gonna fly through my head no matter what. I'm just gonna be lost and confused, but, oh wow, really? I'm honestly kind of shocked to see that very few people have seemed to not have seen Tales of Arcadia. Like, I'm genuinely surprised, actually, because I'm just gonna say, guys, you are missing out. This is a legitimate series. Like, it's actually really, really good. And, I would even go as far and say that this is, like, the Troll Hunters and Three Below and stuff like that, they have been some of the best things to have ever come out of DreamWorks in recent years. Like, right up there with She-Ra and How to Train Your Dragon. So I highly recommend you guys go and check it out. But, okay, we do have one. I'm excited for the final series of Tales of Arcadia. It makes me wish that Pixar will make a TV series after Monsters at Work. Well, I mean, like, they haven't announced anything just yet, so we'll see. Okay, so, well, I guess, if nobody... Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so we do have one, I guess. Let's see. I see. I'm not a Skylanders person. This ain't freaking Skylanders, yo. Or maybe your target's to someone else, but I don't know. Let's see. And someone is mentioning, like, the Pinocchio movie. Well, Pinocchio is not canceled anymore. It's going to be made by Netflix. Let's see. I'm more happy that the final installment of Tales of Arcadia is getting closer than you think. Tales of Arcadia is an animation equivalent of Arrowverse, and this is what DreamWorks should have been intended, being creative and innovative. Okay. Well, I guess, like, I watch this show sometimes with my cousin and relatives who are actually more into the series than I am due to age differences. Again, man, guys, you're missing out, man. You're all missing out on this series. You gotta watch freaking Troll Hunters, man. It's freaking epic. Like, regardless of what age you are, it is a very freaking solid series. Alright, just need to get that out of my system. Okay, so with that said, I think it is now time that we shall go into the grand finale. And with that said, unfortunately, we will have to go into a bit of a more serious discussion. And that is mainly because we are going to be talking about one peculiar article. And some of you may have known about this article, and some of you may have actually read about this article, considering that this week it did get a little bit viral amongst the animation community, since it does go into some pretty serious issues within a certain animation studio. And what I am talking about is going to be regarding what has happened in Pixar. Now, for those of you who don't know, there was an article on Medium.com that is called My Experiences of Systemic Racism and Sexism at Pixar. And the person who wrote this article has remained anonymous, and she has only called herself Brown Muslim Woman, and that's pretty much it. And basically the summary of all this is that she has talked about her experience working at Pixar, and it has been years ago, like around about a decade or at the most 8 years ago, since she has actually worked within Pixar. And her experience, well, it was definitely less than pleasant. And it is unfortunately of the fact that she is brown, Muslim, and a woman. Because, as you guys probably know, there have been word around the industry and stuff like that Pixar has been, unfortunately, a bit notorious for being a boys' club, per se. There might be a few others that are a bit the same, but it's Pixar that is the most prominent to be a boys' club, especially with the drama that has been revealed behind the scenes when John Lasseter has been exposed for his sexual harassment. That's when the floodgates have been opened and all the stories of the poor treatment that some people have gotten throughout the time at Pixar has been revealed. So, in this article in particular, the brown Muslim woman would tell numerous of stories regarding her experiences and her interactions with a lot of her co-workers, with her managers, and a lot of the higher-ups that are at Pixar. Now, this is not to say that all the people who work at Pixar are, all the people and animators who work at Pixar are horrible people. You know, this ain't like an all cops are bastards kind of situation. And she even mentioned in this article that she did actually have some allies who did work at Pixar, but when there are some bad eggs that do work at Pixar, my god, they really are rotten. And at the same time, as she does keep herself anonymous, she also put a lot of others anonymous as well, like only using their initials to go and identify them to remain vague. And if you don't work at Pixar, then you have no idea who any of these people would be. And she did put out a few examples regarding the treatment that she would get. Like one article right at the beginning, she would talk about how at Pixar, they would often go and discuss about subject matters that are related to politics or social issues. And when she saw during lunchtime that there were some people that would go and talk about their political beliefs and talk about social issues, she would want to go and try to chip in as well. And she would mainly talk about police brutality, violence against violence towards black people, how black people would often get a lot of hits. Also regarding the poor treatment and the gentrification of poor and working class black people, especially the fact that they live in the Bay Area since Pixar is in Emeryville. And she would go into other stuff like the poor treatment of indigenous people and how they would constantly lose their land rights, and Occupy Oakland, which was big at the time, and many, many more. Now, she would go and express her opinions on stuff like that, but a lot of the responses that she would get, well, they were less than pleasant. In fact, a lot of them, not only do those people want to ignore her, but basically indirectly say that they don't agree with her, putting out responses like, well, we would not have all the good things you see around you if things did not happen the way they did. Or they would say, I am concerned about property values. Or even, I don't see a problem. Things are working great for me. And then shut the opinion and shut the argument down from there. So already she could tell that in terms of the political views and the opinions, that already they're off to a pretty bad start. Other examples also includes of the fact that she is a woman. And as a woman at Pixar, it ends up making her vulnerable to some incidents of sexual harassment. Like one example here, is it on this one or no? I think it's no. I think it's is it the wait? Which one is it? There are so many other examples. Oh, no. It's right here. Okay, so in terms of the sexual harassment that she got, she was asking for a ride. Like, she wanted to ask someone to go and give her a lift from Pixar to her house. But on the way, the lift that she ended up getting ended up groping her on the thigh. Yeah, groping her upper thigh. Upper thigh. There we go. He ended up groping there, and it ended up traumatizing her a bit. And when she asked to get a different lift, well, she can only end up getting that one guy who's a little bit perverted, and that's pretty much it. And then, of course, there were plenty of other incidents as well where she ended up getting punished instead of the person making these bad remarks, where if she would go and call someone out for being racist or for being sexist or making like a terrible misogynistic response, then she would end up getting punished more so than the person who would make those racist or sexist remarks. There was even one time that was a major incident where it was involved with a massive producer, in which, in this article here, she only calls her D, which is a white woman who is a producer and a Hollywood celebrity. And apparently it was a moment when she hired her black friend to go and work at Pixar as well. And apparently the producer made some terribly racist remarks. And when the friend would go and file a complaint at Pixar regarding these issues, unfortunately, she ended up getting fired after 6 months working at the company. But the biggest one that she wanted to go and express, and probably the most difficult that she has gotten, is when she would get sent to the performance, what was the thing again? It was when she would go and be sent to the performance improvement plan. And that is like after she would do her rounds of calling out some people, and she ended up getting punished, where she would be sent to the performance improvement plan. Now, at that point, she stated in her article that at that time, she was actually pregnant. And when you would get pregnant, then you know that you would have a lot of time off. You know, some time off to go and actually be pregnant, to prepare yourself for when the baby comes. And when that baby is out of your system, then you would have several months to go and relax at home. You would still be paid by the company, and you would have some time to raise your newborn baby. And then when you would have to get back to work, well, then you would gradually get back to work. Not go full-time, but just part-time. Unfortunately, the brown Muslim woman did not get any kind of treatment like that. It's like 2 to 3 months after her baby was born, she has to go back to work full time, and even the managers have purposely went and like gave her more work than usual, to the point that it was just giving her stress. It reached to the point even that it left a physical and mental scar where she would have to seek a lot of therapy and a lot of medication. And just by working at Pixar, it only increased her dosage to get more medication and more therapy, to the point where it kind of escalated, where when she was fired, then she was just more than ready to go and leave, because she knows very well of the discrimination around her, that she couldn't really do anything because it was pretty much built that way at the studio, and that the best thing she could do for herself is to just go and leave. Now, that's just the basic summary of it. That's just coming from me alone. I highly recommend that you would go and read this article in particular, called My Experiences of Systemic Racism and Sexism at Pixar. It's going to be a tough read, but it is going to be a very eye-opening and important read as well. And honestly, with this thing, is that it's sad to read this, and honestly, it's sad to read these shocking stories and not be surprised about it, because for the most part, a lot of these are nothing new. Because ever since John Lasseter has been exposed for his sexual harassment, a lot of these stories have been flooding out regarding Pixar and how people have been treated in there. And even when dissecting some of the stories that are in this, there is one person in particular a lot of people have actually identified, because when it comes to the producer that this article mentioned, this D per se, originally, I think this article ended up getting edited because originally it was D.A., who was the white woman who is a producer and a Hollywood celebrity. And a lot of people have immediately identified her. They know exactly who she was. And if you don't know, a lot of people have speculated that this article could be identifying Darla Anderson. And if you don't know who she is actually she was the producer of Coco. Now, technically, she doesn't work at Pixar anymore. After winning the Oscar for Coco, she actually quit, and now she has moved to Netflix, where she could be a producer there. And like from the rest, then after that, like, a lot of people are not necessarily surprised, because Pixar unfortunately does have a pretty long history of sexual harassment, or at least reported sexual harassment that did occur. But it's also sad to see a lot of the systemic racism that is also in there. But I will say, when reading this article, it is honestly very frightening. And when I say frightening, I mean that in terms of the responses that the brown Muslim woman did get when talking about, like, the first thing I talked about regarding when she expressed her opinions regarding a lot of the social issues that have been happening at the time, it is honestly freaky that these responses are the exact same kind of responses that you would get from people who are against the current Black Lives Matter movement. Like, I'm gonna read you this again. Like, really think about this. Like, we got, like it says, well, we would not have all the good things you see around you if things did not happen the way they did. And then there's also, I am concerned about property values. And then finally, I don't see a problem. Things are working great for me. These three explanations, these three responses, they are pretty much the three most common excuses that people make to be against the Black Lives Matter movement. Either out of selfishness, caring more about properties and the economy more so than human lives, and willful ignorance. And it's honestly sad to see how this would go and, like, even thrive at a place even as highly admired and beloved as Pixar. And honestly, like, it does also reflect upon a very unfortunate reality that not many people are talking about. And really, one thing that is considered to be a massive cornerstone of systemic racism that's not just occurring at Pixar, but also, like, everywhere around the world, is that unfortunately we are still in a time where people who call out racism are punished much more than the actual racists. And I have actually seen that happen recently. Like, in Canada, we do have a recent example where the leader of the New Democratic Party has called out one of the opponents, one of the politicians from the Parti Québécois. Like, he made a racist remark, and the New Democratic Leader Party, he called him out as racist. And yet, the entire media, the only thing they covered is just the fact that the NDP leader has called him out for being racist, and he ended up getting much more punished, more so than the guy making a racist remark. And it's the same thing that we see here. And it's the same thing, like, not just with racism, but also, like, with the factor of, like, how the woman is a Muslim. There's a lot of xenophobia and that kind of discrimination that's involved. And also a lot of misogyny, where women are more, even though we are still in the age of the hashtag #MeToo movement, there are a lot of people who still want want to punish those calling out the sexual predators than actually going after the sexual predators themselves, because there are some people who still have that mentality that they don't want to trust women right off the bat. They don't want to believe what they say immediately and just immediately want to go and shut them off so that they could just move on and pretend that nothing happened. It's still happening to this day, and some people are still desperate to try to shut down the hashtag #MeToo movement in that manner so that they can go back to just silencing women and let sexual predators, especially if they are white men, to go and do whatever they want. And you know the most horrifying thing, the saddest thing out of all this that not many people are really talking about, is that if this is happening at Pixar, well, okay, actually, before I would go into that, I just would like to mention that technically this is from like 10 years ago, or like 8 to 10 years ago. That is technically true, and things have definitely changed. But then again, there are some people out there who do report that technically it might not necessarily be as bad as it used to, but there is still a bit of that mentality that is going on at Pixar. But back to what I want to go and talk about. The big thing with this is that what's really scary about this article, and what many people are not necessarily talking about, is that if this has happened at Pixar, and if this is technically still thriving at Pixar, then you know it's thriving at every other animation studio as well. Because you gotta keep in mind that in terms of the animation industry, it's actually pretty rare for people to just stay at that one studio, regardless if they're either just an animator or an editor or a technician or a director or a storyman or anyone like that. Animation is usually a job where people would hop from project to project, regardless where the studio would be. Like, it happens a lot where you would see animators would hop from Pixar to DreamWorks to Disney to Illumination to Blue Sky to wherever. They're just going where they would find opportunities and try to go and grow their portfolio so that they could have a vast variety of different projects to go and work on to make it easier for them to get a job wherever it would need be. So my point is that it is very rare for any animators to actually sit in that one spot. So imagine this. Imagine the fact that they've already established kind of like this systemic racism and this systemic sexism. That mentality, unfortunately, will also carry with those animators as well. Like, when you would have a bigoted animator working at a place like Pixar, then you bet they're gonna go and carry it to another place like either Disney or whatever. And I really do mean that, like, it is everywhere. Like, yeah, it is true that, like, there might be some places that are less discriminatory than Pixar, because again, Pixar is the biggest one that is the most publicly notorious for being the boys club in the animation industry. But other than that, you got, like, plenty of other studios that could have that mentality that has yet to be reported. Like, there is a very strong chance that is happening at places like Disney, at DreamWorks, at Illumination, at Sony, at Blue Sky, at Netflix, at Cartoon Network, at Nickelodeon, at whichever animation studio. They could carry that mentality. And if you don't believe me, then let's get back to that example of Darla Anderson. If it is true that the Hollywood producer that this article mentions is Darla Anderson, then you gotta keep in mind that the racist mentality that she has in this would also go and possibly apply to what's happening right now with her current job at Netflix. And if that one doesn't convince you enough, then I know that there is another perfect example that I can think of. Now, you guys remember Wonder Park? Remember that disastrous 2019 movie by Paramount? Okay, then you may recall that originally it was supposed to be directed by a Pixar veteran named Dylan Brown, who has worked on numerous of different Pixar films in the past as an animator, like The Incredibles, Ratatouille, and whatever. So he's been working at Pixar for a long time and now has a new directing job at Paramount. But apparently at Paramount, he has been doing some sexual harassment, which ended up getting reported and led him to getting fired from his directing job. So if it can happen at Pixar, then it could easily happen at any other studio, and you never know if this could be happening at any other studio. But unfortunately, because of how secretive it has to be, there are not many people who would go and really call this out. The reason why Pixar is the most prominent in this is mainly because, like, the floodgates have been opened because of what happened with John Lasseter, what has been exposed with John Lasseter, which results in a lot of ex and former employees of Pixar to go and tell their story of their mistreatment, rather it be racism, sexism, or any other form of discriminatory, or any form of discriminatory things that has happened to them while working at Pixar. But again, you never know if this is still going on. And honestly, I really do encourage plenty of other not studios, but I encourage plenty of other animators to openly express their stories of mistreatments if it ever happened in any of the studios. Like, if this does happen in places like DreamWorks or Sony or Illumination or whatever, honestly, like, this is something that needs to be publicly called out upon. We know that this form of systemic racism and this form of systemic sexism is not okay. We cannot, like, this is 2020 right now. We cannot be in a society where the people calling out sexism and racism are being more punished than the actual racists and sexists. Like, it is time that we need to go and punish and criminalize bigotry and sexism, where now they could actually get consequences to their actions. And honestly, I don't know who this brown Muslim woman is, but I definitely do applaud for this brave task of writing this entire article. I'm sure this is not easy of her to relive her traumatic past with working at Pixar, but this is kind of the big thing that hopefully, as tough as they would be, I do hope that we would have more stories be exposed by how terrible sometimes it could be working at the animation studio, because when they can be exposed, then that's going to be the only way we could see true change. The only way we could see change is for consequences to actually happen to those who actually do the wrongdoings. And then that way, that's when we are going to go and see a lot of improvement, where we can see more people that are actually more, that they can actually work together, that they can be treated fairly, and that we can be one step closer to silencing racism against racial minorities and sexism against women. We need to go and actually help this out. Like, we need to go and actually expose more studios. Yeah, like Pixar nowadays, that's an easy target. But if there can be other animators that could expose more studios, whether it be Disney or Illumination or Sony or whatever, then please do so, even if it could be at the risk of your job. So honestly, if we want things to be better, then we need more people to be more vocal about this. And yeah, honestly, that's just the big thing that I really want to talk about regarding this article here. It's a tough read, but it is a very necessary read to wake up to the reality, not just of what's happening in the animation industry, but to have more of an understanding of systemic racism and systemic sexism, and how it could leave these kinds of people to be absolutely vulnerable, especially when it feels like the people with that kind of discriminatory mindset could just get away with it. That, yeah, white privilege is much more, it's more than real. It's it can be a legitimate problem. So, with that said, let us now go into, let's go into the chat wall now. I know this is a pretty tough and heavy subject to go and talk about, but if you guys have any opinions you would like to go and express about this, let me know right now. Let me just go, let me know what you all think about this. Crazy Cartoon Cast went deep, yo! I know, sometimes it can happen a little bit, and I will be honest, I have trained myself. It takes a lot of practice to go and talk about some political opinions in a good, solid way. Honestly, I've had my screw-ups in the past, but, I've trained myself to be much better to talk about, a lot of these political subject matters and, to express my opinions on them. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Fudge Nap. We got a lot of people talking about this. Let's see. Jesus Christ, this is crazier than other news with other studios like Rockstar Games with Red Dead Redemption 2 and BioWare Anthem, just how terrible development was since 2012 with depression and the drama. I recommend to read the article on Kotaku about the horror stories there, and it is worse than Sausage Party's development, and I think all of you should read the article of how people were treated in the development of Anthem. And yeah, this is not just a Pixar issue. This is happening like all over the workplace. And even like, technically it could be another story with other elements like video game development or like just filmmaking live action movies and stuff like that. But there is still a bit of a similar story. You would still see a lot of white privilege dominating the industry to normalize systemic racism and systemic sexism. So this is just one of many examples, unfortunately. Let's see now. Pixar is my dream place to work with, but hearing the story makes me afraid of working there, and they are far away. From LA. But hopefully, I'll work there someday. But I also want some improvement as well if I want to work there. Also, I am hearing some improvements because of the production of Soul. I heard Pete Docter is a decent guy. I seen the guy before. He seems like an honest dude. And yeah, just like I said, like right now at this point, it is true that some people are saying that things are improving. That doesn't mean that the systemic racism and systemic sexism is gone, but I have heard as well that things have gotten a lot better since John Lasseter was out of the picture, and now Pete Docter is the new chief creative officer at Pixar. And by the way, I just want to say, like, I know I'm expressing a lot of these horror stories regarding animation studios, especially at Pixar, but don't let this be in your way of pursuing your dreams. If you still want to go and work at Pixar, then still do it. Keep following your dreams. Keep working hard at it. I don't want to go and discourage you. In fact, like, definitely do so and have the mindset that hopefully you could go and even make a change, even if it would be like at the cost of your dreams and stuff like that. Honestly, I don't want to discourage anyone's dreams of like working at a big animation studio like Pixar one day. I just want to go and try to highlight the reality, and hopefully with your addition, maybe you could go and help out to make things better so that you can shoot down this systemic racism and systemic sexism and this whole white privilege dominating the whole industry. Maybe you could help out on that. Okay, let's see. Okay, God, this is awful. How effing dare they shut down the opinions of a woman of color? God forbid she says something that the white boys don't want to hear. Disney sounds very left and pro-women, but yet the studio they own has a very men-centric studio. I don't have an issue with men. I have an issue with men and people in general who don't recognize their privileges and don't want to try to change. Darla Anderson is a lesbian woman who should know that the others aren't as lucky as her. I mean, I definitely agree with you there. And honestly, like, even my faith with Disney recently kind of shot down a little bit, mainly because of the fact that I thought that, like, especially with the pandemic right now, things have gotten much worse in the United States, and I thought they would push back a little bit with what they would do with their theme parks. Like, so far right now, we saw they're doing it with Disneyland, but I don't know why the fridge are they reopening Walt Disney World when Florida is right now going to soon take the place of New York City as the epicenter of the world, or the epicenter of the United States with the pandemic. It's like, why are you still reopening Disney World, man? This is not helping anyone at all. And yeah, like a lot of it, yeah, as much as they would go and say like Black Lives Matter, and they would go and like support women, like say Black Lives Matter or #MeToo and stuff like that, like they can be pretty hypocritical with it, because sometimes like within their own company, they can be a bit of the problem as well. So that's just a little rant that I want to go and express on that, where, like, I'm honestly very disappointed at Disney, especially with the fact that they have that they decided not to go and shut down Walt Disney World and delay the release. Seriously, this is, like, if you're going to what's the point of delaying Disneyland if you're not going to do the same thing at Walt Disney World when the situation is much worse there than in California? Seriously, man. Let's see. This just makes me want to cry. To see a childhood hero, Glad to see Pete Docter take over and restructuring Pixar to be its best, but to see John Lasseter and the rest of the old Pixar staff act the way just makes you wonder what stuff we were being taught during those Pixar movies, because I always believe they practice what they preach, but I guess not. And what do you think about some of the behind the scenes what do you think about Soul behind the scenes live stream? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you do bring up a very good point regarding, like, what does this mean about, like, the movies themselves? And honestly, I think the best way to put it is that, like, really, this is a point where you have to really learn how to separate the art from the artist. And I think that's, like, a big lesson that many people are learning throughout 2020. And the best example right now is regarding J.K. Rowling, especially nowadays, when she seems to be, like, continuously doubling down on her stance on trans rights, to the point where she gets triggered whenever someone would say trans women are women, and seems to have an absolute hatred for trans people and especially trans women, to the point where she seems especially where she went just full on prejudice against them, to the point where it has definitely disappointed millions of Harry Potter fans, and for them, they have to ultimately learn to separate the art from the artist, that it's okay to still love Harry Potter, but not J.K. Rowling. And it's the same thing. You could support the animated movies. You could still love films like Toy Story, The Incredibles, WALL-E, Up, and all that kind of stuff without supporting the bigoted animators that are behind it. You could still enjoy and love Toy Story and call it one of the best animated films ever and not support John Lasseter at the same time. So again, this really is all about separating the art from the artist. Okay, I think I'll go and read one more comment here because, oh boy, I'd really let out a lot on this. Let's see. I'm glad she spoke out about this, and I do plan at looking at the article in depth more. As a Caucasian person myself, my reason for supporting Black Lives Matter and being against racism is because there are people close to me, both friends and family, who are not only black but mixed race as well. And my girlfriend is of Jewish heritage, and I have every intention of stepping up and helping them, even if they meant my life on the even if it meant my life on the line. And for you, Godzilla fan 1992, honestly, you serve as a great example that many people should definitely follow. Like, even if it is like people who are very close to you, that serves as an inspiration to go and fight against racism, into silencing and killing white supremacy, and to go and support Black Lives Matter, that's honestly a great thing. And honestly, people should definitely go and follow your example. So great on you, dude. So with that said, though, I think that shall conclude this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, and may I say thank you all so much for coming to this episode. Yes, it is a little bit heavy on the end, but man, we definitely had a wonderful discussion on this, so I just would like to say thank you all so much for watching, thank you all so much for listening, and tune in next week for some more crazy stories to go and report, and until next time, see you later, dudes!